Hello, hello. Back today to talk about engineer boots. Now, engineer boots, for most people, are not the starting place, just like myself. When I first started getting into heritage boots, when I first saw engineers, my first thought was, nope. No way I'm pulling those off. I'm not sure what's going on there. And then you keep looking at them and looking at them. You got to try it. So obviously I'm into it. Now I love them. For the longest time, I just had this one pair on the right here, which is the Wesco Mr. Lou, which I think is a great starting place if you're trying to figure out if engineers are for you. They're not the most expensive, and they are super awesome. Great shape, great design, well conceived, well constructed. It wasn't my first try, so a lot of the sort of issues with engineer boots are well known. They are a total pain to get the fit right, which makes sense. No laces. So you really need to have everything fit really well. Like the vamp needs to be right over the top of your foot right. You need to be able to get your foot in there. You need to have it be tight without being too tight in the waist or have your toes cramped. And have a shaft that is big enough for you to get your foot in, but narrow enough to fit under pants that are not super wide. Do you need to buy new pants in order to be wearing engineers? So that's what's really great about these Wescos, is that what I mean by really well conceived design, the shaft is narrow, so they actually fit under a pair of slim jeans, so you don't need to completely redo your entire wardrobe. These are in Horween's black CXL Horsehide, which is fantastic teacore leather. They're great. It's unlined up here, lined in the vamp, double row stitched down, beautiful toe shape. But that's part of what causes a little bit of fit issues with a lot of guys, is this toe gets really flat toward the end here. And then the waist is actually really quite narrow, at least for me. That was a trouble spot right here. But you need that in order to have them stay on you and not have so much heel slip. And the more you wear them, the better with all these things. As you break them in, you have less and less heel slip. All engineer boots have a little bit of heel slip, but this midsole breaks in, which lets the boot flex, so it's not forcing your heel down as you walk. It has a great heel. It's, a little bit of a woodsman heel, but not too extreme. I love the brown contrast stitching. And as you wear in the top here, this kind of pushes down and kind of holds your heel in a little bit better. I'd say of like all the engineers, kind of the spot that could use some extra work would be the heel. It just is not a real grab your heel kind of heel, but as you wear them, that becomes less of a problem. These have Wesco branded Dr. Soul half soles, and I know these don't really look like they've gotten a lot of wear. I've had them for a year now, but I've actually worn these a lot in the last year, and they've been caked in mud, and I just clean them off. I've yet to actually condition them. I with this pair, I really lucked out on the clicking. They just don't really crease because this leather is super thick, and they just hooked me up on this pair. This is my second pair, my second try at Mr. Lube. My very first pair I ordered through Standard and Strange. They got a small batch of the brown Chrome Excel in, and I got them, and I was just so excited. I started wearing them, but they were a half size too small. And also, speaking of clicking, I had a pair, like the two did not match at all. I had one where the vamp was just a pre-wrinkled hot mess, and the other one looked beautiful, and it seemed like the beautiful leather that they used on the vamp, but the other one they put in the shaft of the opposite boot, which is, you know, probably the last place you care about for clicking. So that was a bummer, but you're going to take a lot of sort of whacks at the tree with engineer boots, because like I said, the fit is just really hard to dial in. But I went up a half size, and that made everything just lock into place and feel comfortable. The waist was perfect. How tight it is on top was perfect. Enough wiggle room for my toes, even in this MP 339 last, which is Motor Patrol 339. They have a few different lasts. They just have the MP 95, which you'll see on some of their boots, which is not quite as drastic as this toe box here, which you'll see, which is what makes them look so good, but is a pretty cramped toe, so you gotta have a little bit of room in there. And then they have other lasts for like their job masters and such, but just for pull-ons, and then the boss is a completely different fit. So these also they call an E-width, which is weird because it's more like I'd say like a full D, and most of that just has to do with here in the forefoot, because the waist is still quite narrow, but what gives it really nice curves and angles to look at here. But this part is very forgiving, but then it swoops into this tight toe. But I've loved these boots. They're fantastic. Excellent value for the price point. They're super well built and tough, and they look cool. They fit under any pants, which is exactly a great starting place. And then more recently, I just decided to get more engineer boots. My buddy Jason actually ordered these. They didn't fit him, and based on what we know about each other's sizing, he thought they might work for me. And this is just a fantastic boot from engineer boot from John Lofgren bootmaker out of Japan. And this is the Shinki dark brown Horsebutt. So Shinki Horsebutt out of a Japanese tannery, Japanese made boot. I love this color, and I don't know if you've seen a lot of other kind of Horsebutt, Shinki Horsebutt. Sometimes it has a lot of honeycombing. These ones are actually pretty smooth, which I actually prefer, and I like this brown as opposed to the brown like on the Devil's Causeway that has more reddish hues to it, which I don't like as much. But I love these. They fit me great. This is also my second try at John Lofgren Engineer. First pair I had was the black version of this that I bought used, and they were a half size too small. So my toes were cramped in here. There's plenty of room here, which is good for me because I don't have a low instep, but toes really got cramped in those. So I passed those pass those on, but I'm just super impressed by this Shinki Horsebutt. It is just beautiful. It's a little bit stiffer than the Chrome Excel Horsehide from Horween, which is to be expected. Obviously, I forgot to mention Wesco is US made. These are made in Japan. Come on a half sole as well. I believe this is the Vibram 700 something with the matching heel. And it is thick without being too tough. Like the black pair that I had was even thicker and almost uncomfortable because they were like too thick. These are perfect. I just love this Horsebutt. It's just super duper nice. And you know, obviously a different kind of form factor. These are a little sleeker. I really prefer this flat welt on the Horsebutt models over the other versions of the John Lofgren Engineer that have the storm welt. It's just a personal preference, but I really like this. Beautiful heel, full heel, woodsman heel, beautiful boot. And these are, I'm just so excited about these, to have these in my rotation now. And then moving here to the middle, these are the most expensive by a good bit still. And I just got these yesterday, so I haven't actually worn them yet because, you know, engineer sizing drama. They are not the right fit for me. So I got the wrong size, it seems, based off of measuring all the insoles of my favorite fitting boots. I went with a size, and Brian suggested a different size, but I went with these, and Brian was probably right. Those might have been actually too small, the size that he suggested, so probably somewhere in between. So these are 31 centimeters on his sizing scale, and when I actually measure them, they're like, if I put like a 31 centimeter insole in here, there's a good extra centimeter, maybe centimeter and a half still, so they're more like a 32 and a half almost centimeter. So I am going to see if there's a possibility for exchanging for a smaller size, or if that's not possible, if I can maybe even just return them, which would be a bummer because they are beautiful. This is made by Brian in LA by hand. So these are hand welted. Everything on this boot is done by hand by him. And, you know, it's beautiful. There's 4-row, 3-row stitching. This is a beautiful Italian Horsebutt. It's not, and it's different than this CXL Horsehide and different than this Shinki Horsebutt. It's a little thinner, but still very nice and thick. But you can tell they're gonna break in and be kind of more of this sort of feel, temper to it once they break in. I love this, I don't know what it's called, the racetrack from the crimping, which is part of the old school boot making process for a pair of engineers like this. And like, look at these soles are just badass. These are really cool, and like that's a great heel for an engineer. Full heel, really nice woodsman angle there. These are gorgeous. So we'll see what happens with these. I may not have them, but you know, if I can get the size dialed in on these, they're really nice. But you can tell, you know, there's a lot that goes into a pair of engineers, that you have to figure out what you like and what you care about. You know, some of the things I would say are Where you see engineers that don't look quite right is maybe this heel needs to be right, so everything's proportional. The toe shape, there's lots of different toe shapes. There's big bubble toe, there's the really flat toe, there's flat unstructured, these are structured. Where the buckle placement is, you can see on these roll clubs, they're pretty up high, but on both of these, they kind of have a similar placement over the instep there. You know, is the buckle shape and size too big or too small? There's a lot of ways to mess this up. You want like the contrast stitching with like a contrast welt, something a little more sleek that has the kind of more of a matching welt. You care what kind of a sole. Like I said, the diameter of the shaft is really important. So there's a lot of engineers made by, you know, Wesco, for example, like the Boss, that would be like a much bigger diameter shaft. So you would only be able to wear those with at least a straight cut jean, probably looking more like a boot cut jean. And I mean, these all look good with the boot cut jean anyway, but if you don't want to go out and buy a bunch of those and at least get started with what you have in your wardrobe, you know, so your slim straight jeans and pants, you know, that matters. And it is just nice to be able to not think about what pants, you know, what the diameter of the pants are that you're looking at. And, you know, this approach angle, I've noticed a lot of makers kind of first attempts at these, like the proportions will just sort of be off. I don't know how to describe it other than that, but when you see it, you see it. And when somebody nails it, you see it as well. So I would say a couple of the other makers that are on my list that I really want to explore are Unsung out of Tennessee, Nashville. They're making some beautiful handmade engineers, and also from Zeros out of Japan. I think those look amazing to me. I really want to get my hands on those as well. And these aren't technically engineers, but wanted to show these real quick. These tall boys are so tall, like it's actually ridiculous. I mean, look how much taller that is. It's nuts. So I don't know if I'm gonna keep these or not, just because I really underestimated just how tall they are. But these are from Black Sign, also out of Japan, and they're called, I think they're called the Aviator Boot, and these are sweet. I really like them. They fit comfortable. They fit a little different than an engineer, and it's a much flatter setup with the block heel, so it feels a lot different than your standard engineer. There's not really, you know, a tight vamp holding down on you. You're just sort of relying on, you know, the shape of the boot, and like it going all the way up your leg really holds you in, so you don't really need it to be tight, I guess, because they fit, but they just fit a lot different. But this is a gorgeous leather. It's super thick and fairly firm. It's gonna take a long time to break these in that way, but they're, you know, breaking in around the ankle, which is important in the vamp. But this is a nice veg tan horse that has a really nice temper and a nice teacore black. But these are almost a little too much boot for me. I'm comfortable with the engineer, and I love cowboy boots as well. But this might be, I've gone too far for me at least. But they're beautiful and really well made by Black Sign, so I'd be interested to see what other stuff they come up with. They're really into doing period pieces, so these are, you know, 1930s aviator boots, which, you know, that tracks. But I don't know if they fit into my wardrobe at all. So I just wanted to do just a quick overview. Engineers are tough, but when you get it right, it feels really good and gets you to want to come back for more, as evidence here. And I'm probably not done yet, so we'll see how the journey goes. All right, thank you. Ciao.